Music. Yeah.
Milsurp Garage. The Browning high power. Yeah, let's do it. You know how much I love Browning's stuff. And this gun, of course, is no exception. It has a huge history. They started making the Browning high power in 1935, but it has at least a 10-year history before that. More like a 13, 14-year history before that. Which, if you want to know about, you're going to have to get something like this, because there's not much information online. And you're going to have to get a book like this. I say like this because I don't know if another one exists, but this is the one that I would get. F.N. Browning Pistols, Sidearms That Shaped the World History, expanded 2nd edition. Anthony van der Linden. Might have signed, of course. Envy me. And where this gun started, its history started, it was, it looked like this. Yeah, it looks like it got caught in like a furnace or something and got like melted, or huge samurai sword chopped the top of it off or something like that. But basically, Browning designed these for the French, like a French military contract. They wanted, their own 1911. Of course, Browning was coming off the Colt 1911 here. And this was extremely successful. The U.S. adopted it as their military sidearm. And the French wanted a Browning design too. But as it turns out, after all was said and done, they were a little too picky, and who knows what was going on. They just really wanted something that was French, I think. I don't know. And it just turned out that it never really materialized. So that's why this whole facet of its history kind of just died off. It just didn't really, it didn't work. Browning didn't even want to use the high power comes from high capacity. The high power, that's what the high power meant. It didn't really mean that there was any more power than 9mm. Same power as any other 9mm. The high power was really in the amount of rounds it would hold. And that's what France wanted. Browning was kind of like, he wasn't a big fan of a whole bunch of rounds in a gun. He didn't want to compromise the aesthetics, like the feel of it, the let's say the slimness of it. Like a lot of, everything that Browning did was single stack magazines, and however many you could fit one on top of another, that's what would fit, period. End of story, If 8 went in here, 8 went. If they were small, 32 caliber, then you got, maybe you got 9 or 10, or if it was 25 caliber, the gun was tiny, but, whatever fit would fit, But it was Dieudonné Saive. Man, this guy's name is tough, but that's the pronunciation that I'm using from now on, because there's a accent on the last E in his name, and I just that's what I'm thinking it is. Dieudonné Saive. That's what I'm going with. If you remember in our Baby Browning video, this was his baby, actually. It had nothing to do with Browning. Browning did not design this thing. He was Browning's right-hand man. He was Browning's assistant at FN for a number of years. He probably lived and breathed Browning designs. This guy was lucky, in my opinion. I wish I was in a position like that to work alongside the guy, but he definitely was a brilliant designer on his own. Learned a lot from Browning, I'm sure, but that's not something that you can learn. He definitely was good. He designed the FN, actually, the FAL. So I mean, come on, that's like one of the greatest rifles ever, and this guy designed it. So he's he's not just some guy that just trailed Browning around. I'm sure he was good in his own right. But when Browning died in 1926, he took over this project, and at the same time, the patents on the 1911 expired. So, like, that's kind of like where this thing came from. So, like, Browning designed a gun, couldn't use anything from the 1911 really that was patented. He had to work around the patents, which he was good at. He'd done that a lot, you know, because he sold his designs. So he didn't own his design. So once he sold the design, somebody else owned it. So even though he designed it, if he made something infringing on those patents, he could get in trouble for using something that he designed, because he would sell the design, you know. And so basically he had to design that gun that I just showed you in the book around those patents. Saive designed the double stack magazine and was working with Browning on it. It was, like I said, it was for the French military, but then at the same time, FN branched off and was making a commercial version of it. They just, FN definitely didn't want to let it go, no matter what was going on. You had the Depression, you had these patents, you had Browning's death, they were like so many things dumped on top where this thing really never should have survived, but it made it through. And in 1935, even without the French military contract, it was released in this form. And again, there were some carries over from the 1911 that they were able to use. So what's cool about this thing is it's like a 1911 for guys that want something just a touch more modern, and they like 9mm, and you know, they're not fans of the 45. They like 9mm, and they like John Browning stuff, but don't like the 1911 for some reason. You know what I mean? Because it's definitely like the 911's younger cousin, you know, that kind of thing. So in 35 it came out, first imported into the US in 1954. This is a 79. So now you could break these things down into so many different versions, because man, they changed them through the years like crazy. But for our purposes here, and if you own one of those brand new ones, and you brought to this video, whatever, I'm certainly not coming down on them. I just don't own one of those and know anything about it, so I'm just not going to cover it, kind of thing. But I guess you can consider it like just like a completely different gun, let's say. But the ones that were like this iteration started in 35, and basically there was a Mark II where they changed it in 1981. There were a lot of changes. Like, there was a revised feed ramp, and the safety was made ambidextrous. There was a firing pin safety added to it, and I mean, there's a few different things that really changed even the insides, you know. But and then there was a Mark III in 1989, and there were then a lot of changes through those years. In 93, they switched from forged to cast frames, and interesting changes along the line. But this one, let's say this exact iteration here, a 79, was, well, let's see. Well, we'll carry through here. See, it's really tough to iron these down, but I'm going to do it as much as possible. So in 79 would still be considered like the first, like Mark I, even though like really Mark I really wasn't a name for them. It was really just the high power. Then there was a Mark II and a Mark III. But these would be like the originals, let's say, still in 1979. But there were a lot of changes through the years. In 62 was a huge year where they changed, where pre and post, the parts weren't interchangeable. Maybe some, but not all, you know. And in 62, what they did was they changed the barrel to a two-piece barrel. If you take a look in here, you'll see there's a parting line here. I know it's there. I got some weird lighting issues going on here today. Why is this light not cooperating today? But you can see this parting line here. See it right there? Get my pencil right there. So it's like a two-piece barrel, believe it or not. In 62, they started doing that. So the barrels, they're not interchangeable because of that. And they also changed the extractor then from an internal extractor to external. This is the external one, which the internal one was much like the 1911. You had the extractor, you could see back here, and it ran through inside. But here, nothing. On the older ones, you would have the same circle that you would see there with the extractor inside. And that extractor bent back and forth to pick up the rounds, which would eventually lead it to fail. This one is external, and it's rocks on a fulcrum here. See that, with a pivot point with a spring. So it doesn't actually bend the metal. It just rocks back and forth, picking up the rims, and basically makes it last theoretically forever, instead of the other one being a wear part. So that was actually a good change, you know. And the removal of the half moon cut here in the frame. So if you see those things, if you see external extractor, the two-piece barrel, no thumb cut in the frame right here, then you know you're dealing with post 62. And if you see any of those things, you know you're dealing with pre 62. In 73, they introduced this hog nose barrel bushing. Is what they call this, a hog nose. And in 71, they went to a spur hammer. So in 79, they called these a 71/73 model. When you see those changes, like the hog nose and the spur hammer, this is exactly what, that's what I wanted when I wanted to get one of these, was right in that range. And like I said, in 81, they went to the Mark II. There were some changes there. And in 89, they went to the Mark III. Again, some more changes there, looking more modern and changing some things. And these models, they had a, depending on the sights, they called them different things. So the fixed sights, which they called hump and bump sights, were Vigilante, was the model name for that. The adjustable sights were the sport models, and the Capitan was the tangent sighted model. Now this sight in particular was called the beer can rear sight. First used on the Browning High Power Sport model. It's formerly known as the Type A adjustable sight. It's unique in that the rear sight blade is actually a laterally mounted metal cylinder with a center sighting notch. And they show in here the cylindrical rear sight known as the beer can rear sight. This one is on a 1979 Browning High Power Sport model. Bang! Could have been this one. They could have been taking pictures of this one for all I know. But it's the exact same gun right here. The cast frame and forged frame. When they went to in 93, the production of the cast frames appears to have begun in 93, both 9mm and 40 caliber high powers. So you got that. This is how you tell the difference between those two. The disassembly notch, sometimes known as the half moon cut or thumbprint, it remained a feature until 1962. Like I told you, there it is right there. Factory ambidextrous safety. This refers to the extended ambidextrous safety, first seen in the High Power Mark II in 1981. Okay. Here's the ambidextrous safety. Firing pin safety, that was, like I told you, that was with the Mark III. I'm going to take all that information directly from here. Hog nose bushing, here we go. This was in first introduced in 73. Humped feed ramp. This is the humped feed ramp, same as I got in here. We're going to take this guy apart. We're going to do a little comparisons with the 1911. We'll be taking a look at that. And what else? External extractor, we covered that. Here's the internal one. Here's what it looks like there. See what that cut in the barrel there. And nothing on the side that's visible. Lanyard ring, magazine safety. Oh, the red back grips. That's interesting. Actually, the if you take a look, can you see in there that it's red in there? They paint the back of the grips red. It's supposed to be a way that you can tell the that you can tell the original grip panels that they're painted red. The barrels, yeah, we'll get to that. There are two different. This is the older rounded cam lug, and this is that newer, and it was only around for a short amount of time. It was like the first year they went to this square cam lug. Even, what is a cam lug? Well, we're even going to take a look to see. You know, the 1911 used the ring. What is that called? The 1911 used a link in the barrel to drop it down. In other words, you see when these operate, the short recoil, the barrel and the slide travel back together for a short distance. See that? And then the barrel drops down. And that link that's in there is what creates the drop down for the 1911. Then once the barrel drops down, it's held in place. Slide continues by itself, ejecting the brass, picking up a new round, bringing it back into battery with the barrel, and then coming back into place, lifting it back up into its locking lugs. This was Browning's, original design here with the 1911. Let's take a closer look. Show you what the huge change between the high power and the 1911. I'm gonna show you what was the big deal. I'll show you what the big deal is. So this toggle link here, if I could get it apart. So this toggle link is what Browning used to make the barrel do what he wanted it to do. I wonder if I took this pin, I never did this, but I wonder if I took this pin right here and pushed it through here. Yeah, certainly. So you could see it toggle like that. So this is where it sits. And when it fires, comes back like this. This is what drops it down and holds it in place. And it sits right on top of there when it cycles. Picks up the round. See it, the feed ramp connects right to the barrel, right where it picks up the round. And after that is where when it locks into place, it locks into place up here. And that toggle link is what drops it down and holds it in place. All right, and see the cuts here in the underneath of the slide, and the cuts here in the barrel. Those are the locking links, the locking lugs. Sorry. where it falls right into place there when it's in battery. Nice and tight. Here it just click into place right there. That's how the 1911 worked. But you had this this barrel bushing that had to be there because, you know, the barrels sliding back and forth in here. So you had to have this bushing in here and all this stuff. So the high power, how is it different? Let's check that out. All right away is different. You see that crossbar in there. It's different where the barrel lays. There's no spot up here for the barrel to lay on top, up on the feed ramp. It's different. There's like no feed ramp at all, actually. And there's no toggle link and no barrel bushing. So let's see. Release the tension on this. Get this guy out of here. Very interesting. This now is going to seem very familiar to you know, Glock guys and stuff. Because what you have here now is a barrel that just sits here. You can see, here's where it drops down and it just locks right in there. Now the feed ramp is just attached to the barrel. So with the magazine in here, magazine brings the nose of the round right up to the bottom of that feed ramp. And that's with the slide closed. And as it opens, it drops down. This cam right here. This camming action here. Against that block in there. Drops it down and locks it in place. And we still have the same locking lugs here. And locking lugs there. But this arrangement here is going to seem so much more familiar. How so? Well, let's take a look. Let me show you what I'm talking about. This is what I mean about it being more familiar. I think it looks a little something like this. How do you like that? What do you think? Crossbar. Thought Glock just came up with that all on his own, huh? This was Browning. This was Browning. He came up with two designs at the very beginning in the early 20s. One was a blowback design, and one was a locking design. The blowback design, I have a picture of here in my John Browning book by Colonel W.R. Betts, John Browning, American Gunmaker. I marked it off here for you. This blowback operated concealed hammer, semi-auto. Without being locked to the breech block. So he came up with one like that, a blowback. And he also came up with one like this, which was locking. And it used this arrangement. Okay? For those that think that Gaston Glock came along and invented this ingenious design here somewhere in the 80s or something, or the 70s. Nope. John Browning in the 20s. Not only that, just going to show how far ahead of his time he was. You know how they talk about, you know, like that modern guns, they're so, the capacity, it's not like it was years ago. There's, you know, that there's so many rounds now, and the semi-automatic, the rapid fire, blah, 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 all this nonsense they talk about. Well, even if you go with 1935, when this was released, these originally had 13-round mags, 14-round capacity, so it's 13 plus 1. I have 10-round mags that I'm using here, just so that's my state requires that I have only 10-round mags. When I bought this gun, it had one of these in it. These are actually, give them a shout out, Mech Gar. These things are awesome. It came with one of these, and I was like, oh, well, I guess just that's what I got to deal with. That's that. But they're actually pretty awesome, and they're strong, and they're like, they go in like, you know, the gun flawlessly, and they feed really good. So I went and bought 2 more of them, you know, some made in Italy, and they're awesome. But back to what I was saying, though, they were 14, they were 13 plus 1 way back then. So I wouldn't hear any nonsense about modern guns being so dangerous because of the higher capacity. This was going on a long time ago, and this is this design right here is nothing new. And that's how, if you're really into the high powers, this is probably the reason, is that you could have the best of both worlds. You could have what's going on out there that's modern right now, along with you know, your older stuff that's freaking awesome. Look, even if I take here, let's take the P220, SIG P220, okay? Let's get some room over here. Let's get in here. Yeah, I got to remember all my disassemblies right now, like right spur of the moment, so I don't embarrass myself. But look, here we go. What do you know? We got a spring. We got a drop down barrel. Huh. What do you know? What do you know? Amazing. So that's the design. The only difference is the locking lugs are different. You'll notice, like, you know, on the high power here with these locking lugs that you saw, newer style, they realize that they don't need those, and they can actually just lock the barrel. The locking lugs can be just it locking in this space right here. Those are the locking lugs. That's the locking lug right there. And pretty awesome. All right, what do I do with this, man? I'm gonna be doing a lot of reassembly. What else did we have to cover? Oh, let's cover, this is my favorite part. Let's do we put it back together for you? Sure, why not? Let's put it back together for you. This is a pain. Yes, I gotta be honest with you. This part right here is tough. You need like really strong fingers. All right, with this, you have to be able to feed this. If anyone knows a better way, let me know too. To be able to feed that with your fingers all the way in there. Oh man, painful. It hurts. A lot of things about this gun hurt. Get to that right now. What hurts? Well, you have a couple of things that are supposedly bad. You have slide bite or hammer bite, one or the other, in that the fleshy part of your hand sitting up in here. I don't know how people do this. I'm a big guy. I got huge hands, and I don't have a problem with it, but somehow people's skin gets in here or something when it cycles and they get bit by it. No matter how much I try, it just seems to sit right in there. I can't, and this is supposed to be the hammer where it causes the most problems. And it rides right on the back of my hand right there, but I don't know, I don't get pinched. I guess people just have different types of skin in the web of their hands right there, so it gets up in that notch. I don't know. It doesn't, it's not a problem for me though. And what's the other problem? Oh, just that it's really is hard to like operate. It's like it demands a lot of like demands some muscle strength. So if you're weak with pulling slides back and stuff, you're gonna have some problems with it. Although the slide release is butter smooth. Oh, and the safety, they complain about the safety, that it's hard to take the safety on and off. I don't know. Here, the safety's on. Safety's off, on, off. I don't know. I don't know what the hell they're talking about. It's definitely a smaller switch than, let's say, this big clunky 911 clicker switch here. But I mean, it works. I don't know what the hell they're talking about. Where else are we? Now we're lost. Now we're just flying all over the place. I want to cover this though. This is my favorite part. What movies this was in. Now, it was in Serpico. Okay, he walks into John Jovino's in Lower Manhattan and buys a Browning High Power. And the clerk says to him, "This thing holds 14 rounds. What are you expecting, an army?" And he says, "Nah, just a division." And he's talking about whatever division he worked in NYPD. What's interesting is it's listed as, where did I have that listed? Oh, it was listed on the internet Internet Movie Firearms database. Is that it? Or Internet Firearms Movie Database? One or the other. It's an awesome website, and they list it as a different kind of model than it is. They list it as target sites, but meanwhile, it isn't target sites. If you look at these pictures right here, right from the movie, showing these close-ups, you can see the beer can sight right there. This is the exact same version that I have right here. And that is the Type A adjustable sight right there. So they were wrong on the Internet Firearms Movie Database. It is not the target sight. So here's I'll put up some pictures too. This is the target sight. This is the beer can sight. And this is the tangent sight. I don't know if I could even find a picture of that. Next, the taking of Pelham 123. Now this is weird in that Robert Shaw, Mr. Blue, carries this gun, carries the Browning High Power. However, it switches back and forth throughout the movie and alternately shows a Star Model B. Why that is, I don't know, but it isn't always a Browning High Power in his hand. Now, is there a chance this guy was supposed to be like some ex-military, some ex-soldier of fortune kind of guy, leading battalions in the Congo and all kind of stuff? Because could he have had two different guns on him and switched back and forth? I mean, absolutely. But we'll take it as some Hollywood license going on there. In the Matrix. Here it is right here. In the Matrix. Boys from Brazil. Indiana Jones. See, it's funny. You don't even know how much this thing is in movies, how much it's used. I mean, it really is used a lot. I'm just touching on a few right here. But, man, when I looked at this Internet Firearms Movie Database, it was the largest group of movies I've ever seen for any gun. Indiana Jones, this was his sidearm for all 4 movies. This right here is a picture of the actual one that they used. In Goodfellas, when Henry Hill gets arrested by Bo Dietl, remember, turn the car off slowly, don't move. Remember that? That's a nickel-plated Browning High Power at his head. Killing Them Softly has one of the most awesome Browning High Power guest appearances. Brad Pitt uses it, and there is this awesome slow-mo scene of it operating and the brass coming out and everything. It's pretty cool. When Ray Liotta is being rubbed out And what else do we have? The King of New York, carried by Christopher Walken. And what's cool is Christopher Walken's gun in King of New York, same beer can sight. There you go. There it is right there. Yep. So what can you say? John Browning, short recoil principle, gets rid of the toggle link, gets rid of the barrel bushing. All right, Deotone Saive comes in, collabs a little bit. The patents expire on the 911, so basically they could just take cool things from the 911, throw it into a totally new design with some more forward thinking. And Browning's ideas get mixed up a little bit with some other guy who's really, really good. And you end up with this. You know, it isn't one of those, it's not one of those truly pure Browning designs because he passed. But you can imagine that, I have a feeling that Mr. Saive wouldn't sit there and go out on his own. He wouldn't, I don't think he would do anything that Browning wouldn't do. You know what I mean? I think he respected him enough to kind of carry through with this one the way he would have wanted to go. You know, let's put it that way. And that's it. And it also had a little bit of influence because the French were like, you know, no, we don't want that. We want it to have this. We want it to have that. No, we want an external hammer. We want the magazine safety. Some of the things that were incorporated into this thing were demands from France about how they wanted it done. And then just because France eventually walked away from it and the contract never happened, doesn't mean that, you know, it could have been produced. You know, like just FN had this thing where they don't make any guns until the contract is signed. So if like some country said, okay, we'll sign a contract, we want 150,000 of these, then they would start making them. They didn't just start making them and then hoping for a buyer. So because France walked away from the, you know, the original military contract, they never really started making them back then. And not until all the changes got made and they looked more like this did contracts start coming in. The first one was for the Belgian military. You know, they equipped their own troops with it, you know. So that's why you won't see any of those older ones that look like the one that Browning actually designed, the prototypes, because they were never made. They were only made when they looked like this. So that's it. I know I forgot 8 million things. I mean, I got so many papers here. I got so many books. Yeah, but this there's more information I've ever seen with this book here. It's just, man, this book is expensive. This book, it's so funny that the books become sometimes more collectible than the guns that they're on. And that book is just out of print, and it's like hundreds of dollars now. But they have a lot of the pre-1935 info and post. I mean, it's the most info I've ever seen on the older ones. And then these guys, if I would put my 2 cents in. Oh, yeah, by the way, let's, instead of 2 cents, let's put some rounds in. Let's get our realistic snap caps out here. Let's show you, first of all, how cool these magazines work. The magazines are interesting in that it's double stack, but it has that unique kind of taper to the single stack. That's kind of like how the first double stack magazines worked. You know, you didn't really see the other round next to it like you do now. They kind of just stayed as wide. Hard to explain what I mean, but they definitely have a different look, the older ones, in that they taper like this into the width of where the single stack would have been. You know, where like the newer magazines, they're just square all the way up. You know, like you could see almost both rounds when you're pushing one in. And 9 and 10. You know, it's not so bad. 10 rounds, so it's like 10 instead of 13. It'd be terrible if it was 3 instead of 13 or something like that. It's like, it's only a few off. Not, you know, it's not a deal breaker or anything. It is what it is. And then if you ever move to a state where whatever the capacities could be, it's all in the magazine, not in the gun. The gun's the same, you know, so and how smooth these things cycle. Doesn't matter if you go slow. You can go slow as you want. Fast, slow, doesn't matter. These things will not, they will not stovepipe or failure to feed at all. I'm telling you. I mean, I just use any kind of decent ammunition. But if you're going to play, please use inert rounds like this. These kinds of snap caps are excellent because you can, here, let's see if we can, oh, there's one in there actually. Breech check, there it is. You could drop the hammer on these safely because they have a silicone firing pin. So you see where the firing pin just hit that? And you can test your firing pins because here's one that I didn't just fire. See, it's no indentation. The one that I just shot, it'll indent and then that'll eventually flatten out and go away. So you can check to see if your firing pin's hitting. And because they're the same weight and the same material and everything, that you're function testing, if you're cycling it to see if the gun's functioning properly, you'll have a better chance of it being accurate if the rounds are the same weight and material, I think. And yeah, these things are awesome. I suggest if you take a look in the description down below, and I got a discount code there if you feel like buying anything from them. These guys do not pay me, so I am not, this isn't a commercial. I'm just letting you know that their product is awesome. And I like these guys. I asked them for permission to do this, and they said okay. And that's all she wrote. They send me some snap caps from time to time, to be honest with you. And these mech gear, they don't send me anything, but these magazines were awesome. You hear these nightmares about, aftermarket magazines, but these things are awesome. And Browning does sell, 10 rounders. I was going to go with those, but these were cheaper and they seemed okay to me. I figured I'll give them a try, and I like them. Browning ones look just like this too. You almost can't tell the difference. So that's the snap caps. What else do we have for you? I don't think I got anything else for you. I feel like I was kind of all over the place. I certainly got gun parts all over the place over here, but yeah, that's what they're all about. Yep. It fires flawlessly. You'll love it. And see you all next time. Take care.
Yes.